Thanks very much for your session. Very provocative in a positive way. It seems to me that reading across your presentations, that each of you, one way or another, in some cases explicitly, but I think in other ways implicitly, addressed the materiality that we associate either with or within digital rhetoric. Is that so? And if so, how do you imagine it contributing to DR?
Materiality. Yeah, I mean, it's there. It's tactile. It's in our bodies. It's all over the place. And I think materiality is a huge part of digital rhetoric, as I hope I demonstrated in the video.
I think I was really nervous about presenting sort of, I always I thought back to Liz Losh's opening remarks about consent. And so the sort of re-engaging in consent every time I sort of share moments from the aggregated feed of Jack's live stream across 3 days. And every time when I talk to him being like, I want to present this image, he's like, you do know it's on the internet, right? Like my body is on the internet, anyone can search for it. So I think about the paradoxical sort of anonymity and visibility of the body, and that being sort of a primary source of materiality for digital rhetoric's work. Yeah.
I was really enjoyed the panel, and Sarah, I was really taken by your video. I love tweeting during talks, and I couldn't do it during your video because I was so taken by it. And I'm curious if you could just say a little bit about your rhetorical decision to produce a video in this moment. What led you to the video?
Well, that's easy because that's what I do. I mean, I was telling people earlier today that I was not going to do a video for this. I was going to do it, you know, like everyone else, a talk. And as I started preparing it, it just came. I just opened up iMovie. I was just going to do a series of what you saw, and then I was going to speak instead of doing a voiceover. And I thought, oh, I'll just do a couple clips and I'll vary it up a little bit. And then lo and behold, the whole video was made. So I think it's just become such a habit of mine, speaking of habits earlier, at a comfort level, something I think people who know my work maybe come to expect. And so that's why it happened. Like I said, I tried not to, but it's kind of because I wanted to talk about the composition of the dancing floor, and we already had the other video too. So I thought, well, you know, might as well do a video. So that's the simple answer, really.
Okay. So I'm really interested in using videos for my classes. I've actually assigned the dancing floor to my students a couple times just to get them thinking about ways of creating videos in sort of smart ways. I know there's a movement for academics to do like video essays or whatever, but I still feel like it's very much an essay that's on a different medium. In other words, a lot of words, words. And I think you've sort of found, Sarah, a way of doing it a little bit different. There's still narration there. Jon, you even had bits of this as well. So I was wondering what your thoughts about that whole sort of academic essay in video mode is. Is there a way to sort of get away from that text on video? Or maybe you don't see that same kind of tension that I do.
Oh, no, I do. In fact, I was proposed a talk, I can't remember for what conference, called Getting Over Voiceover, because it bothered me that we had to do voiceover for every one of our videos that we've made, and we still do. And we tried to do videos without voiceover, use strategic text and then juxtaposition and other rhetorical tactics. But so far, I haven't really come up with a way to do an academic video without voiceover. And I'm sure it's people have done it all the time. I've seen Robert Leston, I think, is really working on that. He's got some videos with no narration. But I also feel like with a complex theoretical concept too, it's even more difficult. So our voiceover in the dancing floor is way too long. If I were to redo that, I would cut it in half, or try to at least. So that's really one of my goals in the next few videos, is to try to get over voiceover and not rely on that so much.
I'm really appreciative of the screenshots that people have been sharing of the final cut of like what was not present in the video that they've created, because I think that I make TLDR videos for committee members who don't want to read, 60 pages over 2 weeks. So I'm going to create a video of 3 minutes that here's how I could give you maybe like a short trailer of my thoughts for the dissertation, stuff like that. So it's really interesting to think about the counter narrative of the B-roll that doesn't get in the video essay as having more rhetorical agency than the actual essay itself.
Jeff, I really enjoyed your talk, and for a couple of reasons. One, it resonated for me with Thomas's talk, also in specifically with the notion of transduction that Casey brought up, and also because of the question I had, which is, it seems like the kind of media that Thomas, that you were talking about, are media in which it is possible to just link forever. And there's that kind of aggregating potential, like almost like a traditional hypertext. You can just link forever. Are there media that would just make outrage or outrageousity a little bit less possible that you could think of? I mean, obviously there's a lot of different media in digital media, so I'm just wondering about that.
So I guess I'd say no, in the sense only that where I come from is more of a McLuhan kind of position. So it's not the media. I don't really care if you're on Facebook or you're using YouTube or making a video, whatever. But you are influenced over the last X amount of years by the media that you've been exposed to. So you say the logic of aggregation is a media kind of logic, and it gets into us so that, I mean, there are other kinds of critiques. So it's not the Nick Carr critique of being shallow. In fact, it's the opposite. It says that, or so it's almost a Hirsch. He goes E.D. Hirsch, right? In some ways too, but putting it to work. So it's cultural, or it's cultural capital, or it's cultural literacy, and trying to make people more, or at least think about being more aware of what is your cultural literacy. So, for example, so the one I was trying to pick on a little bit, I think the speaker's left, right, from the Occupy picture, the wake up. I like that image a lot, but not for the same reasons, because I'm bringing a different cultural literacy or different aggregation to the table, and which I think, I don't care about the tourists. I thought that was funny that they were standing on the mat. I care about the kid behind him with thinking that someone else needs to wake up. Why doesn't he wake up, right? Why does he? Why? And that's mostly in academic. I'll pick on academics for a second, because that's where a lot of this comes from. Academic Facebook friends see that image, you're gonna immediately form, in a lot of cases, the Occupy sympathy, right? Because you're coming to it from a particular ideological stance. It's aggregated over the things you've read, places you've engaged, protests you may have engaged with, etc. The only problem, I mean, is that then I come from a different position. I'm aggregating different things, and I say, well, that kid should wake up. Why does he think those two people need to wake up? So we're coming in from very different positions based on the aggregations, but I'm going to say it's a digital way of thinking. Not that it never existed before, only that you just didn't have the exposure to so much information in 1910. I mean, you have exposure, obviously, but not like now that you would have today. So obviously, it's hyper amplified, extended, that you're constantly aggregating things, and you're not thinking about it. And so, you follow every single headline on Facebook. It's, Upworthy's is easy to make fun of Upworthy, but the fact is that I know a lot of people who do that all the time too, post headlines and then the responses. So even the Juan Cole screenshot, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. I mean, I already know Juan Cole's ideological determinism, but all the other people, immediately jump in. And nobody's done the we're supposed to be such great critical thinkers. Nobody's done any examination. They just jump right in. Knew it, told you, fucking A, assholes. It didn't exist. And there's a lot of these instances. And if you think it's just one instance, there's tons of these instances where something does not exist or exists in the way. And there's a back channel conversation even about this event right now going on about something that doesn't even exist, but two people forming a critique aren't even in the event. So, I mean, I guess the answer to the question is you do it, but it's a media thing in general. So I don't know, you get out of it. I don't think you get out. I mean, there's so much outrage right now, and it could be something else, I guess.
Yeah. My question's about Jeff's point about students' confusion between representation and aggregation. And how do you teach any of you students to make that distinction critically? And is this a critical move that we should be teaching in our general education first-year courses, not just in special topics courses as they both produce and analyze?
Yeah, I'll pass the mic, but I actually don't think it's about students. It's about us. It's about people who should know better. So, I mean, an 18-year-old, it's easy for me to look at an 18-year-old and say, well, you don't know anything about Berkeley and Kent State. It's a lot harder for academics, particularly some well-known people that could just start naming names who say things that are inaccurate about global situations, economics, conflict. And for me, the problem is not so much that you're wrong, it's just that it's because of these aggregations that you've built. You know, somehow you've risen above the aggregation, and you're not, it goes against all the cultural studies stuff I've ever been taught. If you make someone aware of something, how did you wake up? How did you become aware of the things that have influenced your ideological predispositions or determinisms to feel like, and it's interesting, and I'm going to write a piece right now about this Israel thing, because it happens at the same time as the Brian Williams and Bill O'Reilly moments happen. And the first aggregation of most of my Facebook friends would probably be mine too, I suppose, is, fire Bill O'Reilly. Why? See, I told you. That's why they didn't fire Bill O'Reilly. Because, okay, but on the other hand, why would you expect Bill O'Reilly to get fired? Because you think all the news media people are equal in their representation? They're not. They're different things behind that.
Tom, you want to jump in, Thomas? Okay, Tom, jump in.
Hi, Jeff. So let me ask a question that's kind of a continuation of a conversation we've been having. One way, whether or not you intended this, to conclude from your piece, which was very good and very provocative and insightful, is that we simply need better or more sophisticated or more truthful aggregations. There's a slippery slope there because it's aggregations all the way down, and you seem to be setting up a hierarchy. So I don't know that that's what you intend. So could you tell me what you think about that?
I don't know if there are any true aggregations. Is there something that's true? Is there a good one and a bad one, or are they just all bad ones?
You seem to have set up a hierarchy.
What's the hierarchy?
I'd like to know.
Me too. I don't know. The hierarchy, I don't know if the hierarchy, I don't think I'm above it, I guess that's what you mean. I mean, do we get some kind of state where you don't make problematic isities? Is that the issue?
If you're going to say that your students come to the class with aggregations that lead to stuff that's really amiss, and then you want to school academics for supposedly having better aggregations, you're setting up a.
No, I think this. So I think.
I don't think that's what you mean.
I think in the student example, actually, so back to Chris's question, I think the student example is not that I'm going to teach them the right thing. I think that's the point, is that they don't give a shit. They don't have that. So whatever's important to me, whatever's important to you, or the people who put up Occupy pictures, it's not important to other people. So it's not important to them. I'm not trying to make it important to them. I don't care either. If they don't, then all right, they don't. They're not interested in it. They don't know about it. But they don't. But so that's why I think that John Oliver, Edward Snowden thing is so funny and interesting at the same time, because Edward Snowden thinks so highly of himself that he has saved America or saved the world, right? It's very presumptuous. These are very presumptuous, arrogant positions to have. So when John Oliver shows him the street interviews and saying to people, who's Edward Snowden? And they're all going, I don't know, who is that? You could do the E.D. Hirsch thing and go, see, people are stupid. Or you could do, they don't have the cultural capital, they don't pay attention to the news. You could take that kind of very cliche response, or you could say, whatever you think is so important is not important necessarily to everybody else. So I know it feels really good to feel that Occupy is really an important moment, and a lot of us feel that way, maybe. Students don't even know it exists. Or John Pike, it was a really, really monumental moment in the Occupy movement when John Pike pepper sprayed those kids. Except nobody knows about it, except us. These kids don't know. Is that bad? I'm not gonna take the bad position. I don't care, frankly. I think it's just more interesting to me, how do you come to a position? And how have your beliefs been? They have their own aggregated ideological positions as well. So it's easy to just say, well, I'll make you aware of them, right? But
so it comes down to awareness.
No, it doesn't work that way, right?
Then I'm confused.
Me too. I mean, there's no resolution for me. I'm just trying to get at, I'm trying to get at something that I feel we're not often willing to get at, which is our own belief system. So it's very easy, Berlin in the end, right? Saying, okay, this doesn't work, so we decoded Roseanne, so what? doesn't work. But I don't know. There's no answer to any of that. Just I'm trying to get at the point. I'm more about us, not about the kids anyways. The kids, it's easy to pick on 18-year-old kids for not knowing stuff.
Hi. Oh, good. This works. All right, Jeff, question for you. Kind of sort of related to Thomas's. Yeah, I know. Tough to be a star. Here's my question. So I'm thinking about the I am stuff, right? And I'm thinking about whether, is there an I am not out there? Because I posted this to your Facebook page, so you'll be able to see it later. But a few years ago, we created this group called I Am Basic Writing for Counsel in Basic Writing. And we had these stickers we passed out to people. And several people came up to me and said, I don't want to wear that. I don't understand why you're giving me that. What do you mean I am basic writing? That doesn't make any sense. And so it was like this rejection of an alliance with a thing, right? And it was, you know, kind of obvious what we were trying to do. But it made me think about, is there an I am not? Is there an allied, like, re-identification we were talking about? And Maggie used to think about, like, the I am not Trayvon Martin, right? So I was, and Melissa's pointing to that on her screen too. Our entire table apparently wants to ask a question. So I was just wondering, like, is that a thing that fits into the outrage? Is that something different? So there you go.
I don't know. Do you think this is something similar, like, you know, when memes aren't just units, right? So they're conversations. They fork out and become larger conversations and narratives. So when something like I am 99% switches over and becomes what was the Mitt Romney breakdown? The 43, 47. So then people on the other side of the political spectrum will appropriate and do that. And then, of course, eventually becomes parody. So I am the 1% milk. And then at some point there's a Sesame Street characters doing something, and these memes, I am this. So yeah, I mean, is that I am not? I mean, is that a form of I am not, where they kind of a lot of these things branch out, and keeping, you know, the circulation stuff is very much part of people interested in circulation studies. Or if you read, you know, Tony Sampson's contagion theory, you know, there's a lot of contagion, repetition. So part of the aggregation stuff I'm interested in too is, you know, that repetition of belief systems, and without being where you're just repeating a belief system because of things you've already been exposed to. So yeah, I mean, is that kind of like I am not, all those, the way it branches out to parody and reverse critique?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, like, when you refuse the I am identification, is there, you know, is that another place, or is that just a refusal of the rhetorical act, which I think you answered.
Yeah. Thank you.